Welcome wrestling warriors to another unforgettable episode of Chaos in the Ring, the ultimate destination for everything that shapes the heart, history, and soul of professional wrestling. Today, we step into the squared circle not for a match, but to pay tribute to a true icon, a larger-than-life figure whose name will forever echo through the halls of sports entertainment. We are here to honor the one and only Hulk Hogan. At the age of 71, the man who changed professional wrestling forever has passed away, leaving behind a legacy as massive as the 24-inch pythons he proudly flexed for decades. When the news broke, it hit like a thunderbolt across the wrestling universe. Tributes poured in immediately, and among them were heartfelt messages from two current stars who represent the bridge between wrestling's golden past and its bright future, Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio. Their tribute was more than a simple farewell. It carried a mystery, a sense of intimacy, and a connection that fans are desperate to understand. What made this homage so special? How did Liv Morgan's recent injury intertwine with this emotional moment? And what was the secret that Hogan shared with them, a secret that added so much weight to their farewell? Today, we are diving deep into those answers. But first, we need to set the stage and revisit the life of the man who made wrestling larger than life. According to reports from TMZ Sports, emergency responders rushed to Hogan's Clearwater, Florida home early Thursday morning following a cardiac arrest call. Witnesses saw multiple police units and EMTs on the scene. Hogan was taken out on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance as paramedics fought to keep him alive. Despite their frantic efforts, the news came swiftly: Hulk Hogan was gone. Just weeks ago, his wife Sky had dismissed rumors about his health, insisting that he was on the road to recovery after recent medical procedures. Sadly, reality proved much harsher. Hogan's death is more than the loss of a wrestler, it marks the end of an era. He wasn't just a performer, he was the heartbeat of a movement that made professional wrestling a global phenomenon. From the birth of Hulkamania in the 1980s to his dominance in the 90s and beyond, Hogan's story is a saga of triumphs, controversies, reinventions, and cultural impact. And that's exactly what we are here to celebrate today. So buckle up, Chaos in the Ring fans, because we are about to relive history. The story begins on August 11, 1953, in Augusta, Georgia, where Terry Eugene Bollea, later known to the world as Hulk Hogan, was born. Growing up in Tampa, Florida, young Terry was an athletic kid with big dreams, excelling in baseball and music before the world of wrestling called his name. Before slamming giants, Hogan was a talented bass guitarist who played in local bands. Fate, however, had bigger plans for him. Hogan started his wrestling journey in the late 1970s under the brutal tutelage of legendary trainer Hiro Matsuda, who famously broke Hogan's leg during training to test his determination. Hogan passed that test, returned stronger, and by 1977, he had his first match as the Super Destroyer in the Florida territory. But everything changed in 1979 when Vincent J. McMahon spotted his potential and brought him into the World Wrestling Federation. Initially a villain, Hogan's magnetic charisma and towering 6 feet 7 inches frame made it impossible to keep him from the spotlight. The explosion came on January 23, 1984, when Hulk Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden to win the WWF Championship. That night didn't just crown a champion, it gave birth to Hulkamania, a phenomenon that would carry wrestling into the mainstream. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and believe in yourself. Hogan preached, and millions of fans followed. Through the 80s, Hogan was the face of WWE's national boom, headlining the first WrestleMania in 1985 alongside Mr. T, and delivering what many call the most iconic moment in wrestling history at WrestleMania 3 in 1987, slamming the 520-pound Andre the Giant in front of a record-breaking crowd. From then on, Hogan was unstoppable. His epic feuds with Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, and others defined a generation. Hogan's look, the red and yellow gear, the ripped shirts, the signature leg drop, became symbols of an era. His theme song, Real American, became an anthem, and his 1,474-day championship reign proved his dominance. But Hogan's influence didn't stop in the ring. He crossed into mainstream pop culture, appearing as Thunderlips in Rocky III, starring in movies like Suburban Commando, hosting Saturday Night Live, and even leading a Saturday morning cartoon called Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. He became a household name, with merchandise flying off shelves and, "Brother," becoming a catchphrase recognized worldwide. Of course, Hogan's career was not without controversy. The 1991 steroid trial, His shocking departure to WCW in 1994, and his reinvention as the villainous Hollywood Hogan in 1996 showed both his resilience and complexity. His heel turn and formation of the New World Order (NWO) with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash shocked the wrestling world, revitalized his career, and launched WCW into the Monday Night Wars era. Even as time passed, Hogan continued to create unforgettable moments, like his showdown with The Rock at WrestleMania X8 in 2002, where a crowd of over 68,000 cheered the legend despite his villain status. Hogan's later years saw ups and downs, from reality TV fame with Hogan Knows Best, to personal scandals and a controversial exit from WWE in 2015 following leaked tapes. Yet his 2018 reinstatement into the Hall of Fame proved that despite his flaws, Hogan's contributions to wrestling were undeniable. Through triumph and turmoil, he remained a symbol of wrestling's golden age. And that's why his passing feels so personal to millions. Hogan's death wasn't just a headline, it was a heartbreak for anyone who ever flexed in front of a mirror, wearing a bandana and believing in the power of Hulkamania. His cryptic Instagram post reading, "One more ride, brothers," just days before his passing now serves as an emotional farewell from the man who defined an industry. Now we turn to the tributes, particularly from Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio, two stars who didn't just admire Hogan from afar but shared real, personal connections with him. Liv, recovering from a devastating injury sustained during a match with Dakota Kai earlier this year, spoke through tears about what Hogan meant to her. She grew up idolizing him, sneaking in late-night WWE shows as a kid, and dreaming of becoming a superstar like her hero. From her NXT debut in 2014 to her breakout as SmackDown Women's Champion, Liv has carried that energy, that fighting spirit that Hogan preached. Her tribute wasn't just for a legend, it was for a mentor who offered advice during her toughest career moments. Dominik Mysterio, son of Rey Mysterio and one of WWE's fastest rising stars, also delivered an emotional message, recalling conversations he had with Hogan about carrying the family name and building his own legacy. Hogan's words, he revealed, helped shape his approach to the business. Both Liv and Dominik hinted at a private moment they shared with Hogan in recent months, a moment that gave their tributes extra weight. Fans are now speculating, what did Hogan tell them? Was it advice, a blessing, or something more? Over the next hour, we'll break it all down, from Hogan's final days to these heartfelt tributes and the impact they've had on fans worldwide. So grab your bandanas, flex those muscles, and join us as we take one last ride through Hulkamania, celebrating the man, the myth, and the immortal legacy of Hulk Hogan. Welcome back, wrestling warriors, to another powerful and unforgettable episode Chaos in the Ring, the #1 spot for the stories, the legends, and the legacies that have shaped the very core of professional wrestling. Today, we step into the squared circle with heavy hearts and eyes full of respect as we honor one of the greatest icons this industry has ever seen. A man whose name will forever echo through the annals of sports entertainment history, a name synonymous with wrestling itself. The immortal Hulk Hogan. At 71 years old, Hulk Hogan, the superstar who redefined professional wrestling for an entire generation, has passed away. His legacy, absolutely colossal, just like the 24-inch pythons that became his trademark. The news sent shockwaves across the wrestling world like a thunderclap that shook every corner of the WWE universe. Fans everywhere froze in disbelief, and soon tributes began pouring in from wrestlers past and present. Among them, two names stood out, Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio. Their emotional homage to Hogan has the entire fanbase talking because it wasn't just a tribute, it felt deeply personal, almost mysterious. What made their message so special? How did Liv's recent struggles and injury play into this heartfelt moment? And what private words did Hogan share with Liv and Dom before his passing that made their tribute hit like a punch to the gut? We're going to unravel it all today. But before we dive into those answers, we need to set the stage and take a journey through the life of the man who made wrestling larger than life. According to TMZ Sports, emergency responders were called to Hogan's Clearwater, Florida home early Thursday morning after reports of a cardiac arrest. Multiple police vehicles and EMT units swarmed the scene. Witnesses described a frantic scene as Hulk Hogan was stretchered out of his home and loaded into an ambulance. Despite desperate attempts to revive him, the heartbreaking news came soon after. Hulk Hogan was gone. This tragic ending came just weeks after his wife, Sky, had assured fans that Hogan was recovering well from recent medical procedures and that his heart was strong. Sadly, the reality was far grimmer than anyone could have imagined. This is not just the passing of a wrestler. It is the closing of a chapter that defined an entire era. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a WWE superstar, he was a cultural phenomenon. From the wild, neon-colored spectacle of the 80s to his unforgettable reinvention in the 90s, Hogan turned wrestling into a global sensation. And now, the wrestling world stands still to remember the man who carried the business on his massive shoulders. Hogan's story began on August 11, 1953, in Augusta, Georgia. Born Terry Eugene Bollea, he grew up in Tampa, Florida, with dreams bigger than the Sunshine State itself. As a young man, Hogan had passions beyond wrestling. He was a gifted athlete and an accomplished musician, playing bass guitar in several local rock bands. But fate had other plans. The world of wrestling called him, and when Hogan answered, history was set in motion. His journey began in the late 1970s when he trained under the brutal discipline of the legendary Hiro Matsuda, a man notorious for testing his students' resolve by pushing them to their limits, even breaking bones to weed out the weak. Hogan's leg was famously broken during training, but instead of walking away, he came back stronger, proving he was made for this business. By 1977, Hogan was wrestling under the name, the Super Destroyer, in the Florida territory. His size and charisma made him impossible to ignore. In 1979, Vincent J. McMahon brought him into the World Wrestling Federation. At first, Hogan was cast as a villain, but the fans couldn't resist his presence. His towering 6 feet 7 inches frame, his undeniable charisma, it was a combination that screamed main event. Then came the moment that changed everything. January 23, 1984. Madison Square Garden, Hulk Hogan vs. the Iron Sheik for the WWF Championship. The crowd was electric. Hogan dropped the leg, scored the pin, and Hulkamania was born. This wasn't just a victory, it was the birth of a movement. Hogan's mantra, "Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and believe in yourself, brother," resonated with millions. Fans didn't just watch Hogan, they believed.